Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. In today's fun in-process model kit review, we'll be taking a look at the classic Tamiya 1/48 scale Brewster Buffalo F2A-2. This is Tamiya kit number 61031. This kit is truly a classic kit, and it was originally released in 1974. The particular boxing I have is from 1993. In this review, I'll give a brief history of the Brewster Buffalo F2A2. We'll go through the kit instructions and we'll talk about any problem areas to watch out for during construction. We'll also take a look at the detailing on the smaller parts that make up the interior of the kit and the landing gear. We'll take a look at the fit of the major parts in the kit, and we'll also talk about the surface detailing on the exterior of the kit. We'll look at the color and marking options that are included and talk about the quality of the decals themselves. I'll also talk about any aftermarket products that I plan to use during this build. A brief history of the Brewster F2A2. In late 1939, the U.S. Navy ordered 43 of the more powerful Dash 2 F2As from Brewster. The F2A2 featured a number of refinements over the Dash 1, a Wright R1820-40 1200 horsepower engine replaced the earlier 950 horsepower unit to give a top speed of 334 miles an hour at 16,500 feet. The new engines required some modification to the fuselage of the aircraft to keep the center of gravity within limits. The first production F2A2s were actually sent to Belgium as the Brewster 339B, and it was not until September of 1940 that the Navy started to receive their Brewster Buffaloes. These served with Fighting Squadron VF2 and Fighting Squadron VF3. Both of these squadrons re-equipped with the Buffalo in early 1941. The F2A2 Brewster Buffalo provided introduction to high-speed monoplane fleet operations and continued in service with the U.S. Marine Corps and as trainers until late 1943. Looking at the kit instructions, Step 1 has us mounting the pilot's seat to the rear bulkhead. It also has us detailing out the sidewalls and adding some parts to those as well. The seat belts on the pilot's seat are molded in, and you can choose to either paint these as they are or add some aftermarket seat belts. In Step 2, we're continuing on with the detail parts that are found in the interior. We can see the instrument panel here. There is minimal raised detail for the instruments themselves. In this picture, we can see the detailing on the side walls of the kit. This actually doesn't look too bad. In Step 3, we're adding sidewall detail and the instrument panel to the port side fuselage half, and then we're closing the fuselage halves around that. The fit of the fuselage halves is not bad, but it's somewhat representative of kits that were released in this time period. And the centerline seam is going to take a little bit of cleanup to get a really nice join line here. In Step 4, we're building the engine, and we're attaching that to the front of the fuselage, and we're adding the front of the cowling as well. The detail on the engine actually looks great, and this should look fantastic once it's detail painted. In Step 5, we're attaching the upper wings to the lower wings. In just setting things together, it does seem like we're going to get a good fit of the upper wing to the lower wings. In Step 6, we are building the landing gear, and we're attaching that to the lower wing. We're also building the bombs, and we're attaching that to the lower wing. Looking at some of the detail parts here, we can see that the landing gear itself is going to require some cleanup. You can see the flash around the edge of the landing gear and a sink mark on the landing gear that will need to be cleaned up prior to assembly. Looking at the main gear door itself, it has very fine raised rivets on the exterior. It also has some detail on the interior, and I'll have to check, but I think these sink marks that are on the inside are going to be covered by the gear leg. Here we can see the detailing on the bombs, and while it's not up to today's standards, it's not bad for a kit of this age. In Step 7, we're continuing to attach the landing gear to the underside of the aircraft. We're also attaching clear part number 2 to the underside of the aircraft. I don't really anticipate any problems with this step of construction. In step 8, we're attaching the cockpit floor and control column to the wing assembly. This looks very straightforward. In step 9, we're attaching the tail planes and we're building up that area of the aircraft. The fit of the tail planes is very tight, and the seam from the tail planes to the fuselage looks very nice on the upper side, although there is a small gap on the lower side where they attach to the fuselage. In step 10, we're joining the wing assembly and the fuselage assembly. The fit is not bad here. You can see the join line between the fuselage and the upper side of the wing. On the underside of the fuselage and wing, you'll probably need a little bit of putty along the join line between the lower wing and the fuselage. In step 11, we're adding the optional pilot figure. We're also painting the optional standing pilot that comes in the kit. We're also adding what looks to be an oil tank and a roll bar to the cockpit, and then we're attaching the clear parts to the kit. The detailing on the pilot figure itself looks to be very nice. The clear parts themselves are very fine. They have incredibly fine framing on the exterior of these, and these look to be really nice. They also seem to fit very precisely as I test fit them to the top of the fuselage. I think you'll have no issues with these. Moving on to step 12, we're just adding the pitot tube and the prop to the aircraft, and that completes construction. There are 2 marking options included in this kit. Both marking options have the silver fuselage and yellow wings, and these are for pre-war aircraft. Looking at the decals themselves, on the backing sheet, these look fine, but in my example, turning them to the side a little bit in the light, we can see it looks like a crinkle effect over the backing and the decals themselves. I don't have high hopes for these when I go to use them, but I'll keep you guys informed on the process. I may have to replace these with aftermarket parts. Because of the fine framing on the clear parts on this kit and the many tiny windows on the clear part that's underneath the fuselage of the kit, I ordered a set of the excellent Edward canopy masks, and those should work great and save me a lot of time in preparation for paint. Looking at the surface detail on the exterior of the kit, this is an older kit, and so almost all of the detail on the exterior of the kit is raised detail. And while the fit on this kit is excellent for the time period in which it was designed, it's not on par with the best kits that are out today. The Brewster Buffalo has honestly been very underserved by model makers, and so currently this is the most readily available Brewster Buffalo kit in 1/48 scale. Fortunately, I think this one should turn out great if you apply some modeling skills. As I said, really the main thing you'll have to deal with is the seam cleanup, and you just don't want to destroy that very fine raised surface detail along the seams as you clean those up. Because of the extensive framing on the clear parts of this kit, as well as a complicated paint scheme and a little bit of a challenging construction phase, I would recommend this kit to modelers with a little bit more experience under their belt. All right, I'd love to know if any of you out there have built the 1/48 scale Brewster Buffalo F2A-2 from Tamiya. If you have, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative. And until next time, model on.